Welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from wherever you may be. It is a Tuesday afternoon. I usually do these in the morning, but I was a little busy this morning, so I'm going to try to get this done right now and post it for this afternoon, late afternoon and evening. I hope you're all doing well. I hope everybody's doing great. I've been talking the last couple of weeks about redoing the website. I've reorganized the website. So go take a look at JohnsTarot.net and tell me what you think of the reorganization. It all kind of works now, rather than just being a place where a podcaster posts his episodes. It has a much better organization and much more of a purpose, and it's interconnected, and the links all work. And I got up a consultation page. So if you like a consultation, you can contact me from the website at johnstarot.net, and we'll work something out. But if nothing else, go out there and take a look. I also put up a mini series page where I've put together, I'll talk about different topics, the hero's journey. I talked about that. I talked about Sophia. These were all mini series. And I'm going to start another mini series today. Today's mini series is probably not that popular of a series, but it's about death. It's about what I've learned about death. I have been exposed to it probably a little bit more, probably a lot more than most people. And I've brought away some insights. And I just thought I would share those with you. And as I see it, this process of death, from my point, from where I live, had three different places. I had to write these down on a piece of paper so I didn't forget them. One is the place of death as an observer. You know, family members die, friends pass away, and until he passes away. I have a professional association with it where I am a participant, but I'm a professional participant and as an observer. And I've had close family members pass away. And what I've learned, the second episode will be death as a participant. I have faced personal death on a couple of occasions. On 2 or 3 occasions, and what I have learned, what those episodes were, what happened to me, and what I learned, and what I came away with, and I'll share that with you. And then the third episode is after making peace with death, what did I learn about life, or death as a teacher? What did it teach me? So this is going to be kind of talking head videos. I'll do the very first one, and that is death as a participant, or no, death as an observer, actually. The first time I ran into death, I was a young lad. My grandfather passed away, and when he passed away, as I was like 9 years old, and as a 9-year-old, I was concerned with I'm going to lose my only grandfather, and I loved my grandfather. He was a great guy. Despite his personal problems, which I knew nothing about. And I was very sad. And then what really hit me during the whole process was grief. I had never really seen grief. The grief of my father, the grief with my grandmother, this profound sadness and profound grief. I don't know if that really upset me, but it got my attention. And as a 9-year-old, when I was 12, I lost my mom. My mother passed away from cancer when I was 12. And that was a profound experience for me. And it really scarred me for a long time. And my mother was always a protecting agency for me, a buffer between the world and what else is going on, and somebody to promote you and support you, and all that was gone. And it took me a number of years. My family didn't know anything about grief, how to properly process that type of thing. All the alcoholism and stuff, all they did was get loaded. And that's what I saw, and that's what I did for many years. But I finally had to come to grips with it when I got sober, and because I realized I was, sure, I was trying to escape all that grief and all that sadness, but I was creating more problems than I was originally trying to escape. And I had to learn how to deal with that type of grief that happens, and that's just part of life. It probably, I don't know if it made me a better person or not, but it's something I grew from. It's definitely something I grew from. When I was out there drinking and using, I had a few friends pass away. I don't think that impacted me too much. I was about 3 years sober. I'm trying to get through these as quick as I can. I was about 3 years sober, and my dad was dying from alcoholism, and he did finally die from alcoholism. And I was there with him at the time he passed away. And a couple of things, a couple of lessons. He never liked me much anyway. I was there to fulfill an obligation, my obligation as an oldest son. And I did that. My grandmother was there, and I was there. And here are a couple of things I learned. If you are going through this, a death of you know what's coming, a death of a family member, and you are the chosen one who's going to have to deal with all the problems. You're going to have to make a lot of decisions, a lot of tough decisions. And all you can really do, and this is my observation from my experience, is all you can really do is make the best decision you can with the information you have available at the time. And not everybody is going to agree with your decision. Your Aunt Tilly said, "Oh, the family wouldn't go along with that." It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter. They're free to give their opinion, and you're free to weigh that in your decision. But if you are the decision maker, the decision is yours. And what you need to know about this tough position you've been put in, and there's no books on this, I'm just giving you from real experience, is it just has to be a decision you can live with. It doesn't matter if they're happy. It doesn't matter if your family agrees with it. It doesn't matter if anybody agrees with it. This is your decision, and it has to be a decision you can live with, and you don't have to justify it to anyone. And that's another lesson I learned. When my dad passed away, I was there at his bedside when he passed away, and like I said, he never liked me anyway, so our emotional contact was not that close. But so I was able to observe. I was able to observe the process. And here's something I took out of that event, and I'm going to share it with you. And I use it in my professional practice too. One of the things I tell people is that for me as a son, even though he never got along with me, we never saw eye to eye, we didn't get along. I was there with him at the moment he passed away. Doing so, I fulfilled my obligation as a son. Okay. I fulfilled my obligation as a son. And then secondly, that not only did I fulfill my obligation as a son, but he knew at some level, he knew that I was there, and that at the moment of your death, at the moment of your loved one's death, at the moment of your friend's death, if they know that somebody's there who cares, no matter how little, that's probably the only thing they get to take with them into the next life, is that knowledge. And those are some things that I share with people at the bedside as a nurse. That the decisions, and that fulfilling an obligation as a son or a daughter, that knowledge of what they get to take with them. And, as a professional, what I've learned is that there are good deaths and there are not such good deaths. And I have been at the bedside for many of both kinds. One of my notes here says, some of the things that I do as a nurse, when aggressive treatment is no longer helping, someone has to help patients and families transitions from fighting death to meeting it with comfort and dignity. That isn't giving up, it's a different form of care. And sometimes I am put in that position. There comes a point in intensive care when my job is no longer to prevent death. My job becomes relieving suffering, helping families understand what is happening, and making sure no one dies alone or in unnecessary pain. Sometimes our nurses call this being the AOD, the angel of death. And we kind of usher it in. I see my job when I do that, when I have to do that. The family makes a decision that they want to go comfort, and I will initiate all the procedures that need to be done for that, just that the patient is comfortable, that I could provide the family with some support. That I tell them what's going on, and I reassure them that their loved one won't be in pain, they won't suffer. And what I do then is I don't push anybody over the edge. I just make them comfortable, and I let nature take its course. And I want to tell you, I've been doing. I'm going to be retiring as a nurse now. Been a nurse since 2000, and I sleep good every night. I don't. My conscience doesn't bother me because I know I'm doing the right thing. Some of these times, these are not my decisions. I'm carrying out the decisions for somebody else. These big tough guys, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. None of them has seen what I've seen. And then my other issue, when I was really surrounded by death, was in COVID. And I don't have that in my notes. I was working up on ICU, and I'll tell you exactly how it was. And then we'll just move on to the tarot page. We didn't know. Yeah, especially early on, there was no vaccine, and we didn't. Everything we did, everything we threw at COVID wasn't working. And the families would come in with the ivermectin, and why won't you continue the ivermectin? The doctor would say, because if the ivermectin was working, he wouldn't be here in the first place. And there was so much death during that period, and it was very frustrating for me to have Tucker Carlson talking about, oh, there's no such thing. But I didn't see any Tucker Carlson free treatment clinic out there for no such thing. It was terrible. We filled out the mortuaries were no longer accepting the dead. Our mortuary at the hospital was full, and they started sending us refrigerator trucks, and those would start to get filled up. And I walked surrounded by death. I walked through the valley of death. And what happened during that period of time, I'll go on. I'll go into that in another episode. That's my next episode. And I had to face my own mortality and make my own decision on how I was going to what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. My decision was to, and I'll just add this. I'll just put it like this. I had to come to a decision. Well, because I was older and I was trained and I knew this is big, especially early on. I knew this was going to be a big problem. And I thought about it and I said to myself, life has given me a lot, from sobriety, from being a really helpless individual to the guy I am today. Life has given me a lot. Now life is asking something of me, and I had to make my decision. And I made my decision, and I'm happy with my decision. So those are my experiences seeing death as an observer. And I'm going to switch over to our tarot page, and we're going to ask the tarot. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. So we're going to ask the tarot, what should we learn when we're an observer of death? I guess we all learn something different, Well, I shared some of the things that I learned, and I learned a lot more than that. That's all I'm going to put into a podcast, though. So what should we learn? And I'm going to try to make these short today. What should we learn when we're an observer of death? I'm not really afraid of it. I'll tell you that. And I'm not really afraid of it. There's ego death. The ego's not happy about it, but I'm okay. What should we learn when we are an observer of death? And we'll shuffle the card. I'll throw some runes today. I haven't been throwing runes. This is going to be a short episode, so I'll throw some runes and see what we get. And we're going to cut the deck. I'll throw the cards, and then I'll throw the runes. The first card, the King of Pentacles. My second card is the Seven of Swords. My third card is the Queen of Pentacles. What should we learn when we're an observer of death? Odin, Freya, please help guide this reading. What should we learn when we're an observer of death? The King of Pentacles. And this one is called Thuraz. You can see the little rune standing at the threshold. What a ooh, that is. So what that has to do with, we got the King of Pentacles. I'll do them one at a time. That the King of Pentacles is somebody who knows how to, who knows. We've had rich lives in this country. We've had a rich life experience, and you should realize that when the person is passing, that they have had a rich and full experience, and that hopefully they've managed it well. And what's happening at that moment when you're an observer of this thing, and we all tend to be so sad and at the point of death, I see death as a big cycle. We're born, we grow, we mature, we become successful, we have families, we have careers, and we go into a decline, and then we pass away. and then the cycle starts over again. So I tend to view death in terms of reincarnation. It's like it's like when a field of flowers. You ever seen a field of flowers? And they're beautiful. And then the summer they come to full bloom. And then in the fall they wither and they pass away. And then the winter snow comes, and then it's covered by snow. Then in the spring, life comes again and the flowers grow. Are they the same flowers? No, but the life is the same. And I tend to believe that reincarnation and life is just like that. Nature is very economical. It reuses things on a regular basis, and I think our life force and our lives are reused again. That's why I tend to believe in reincarnation. And the rune is Thuraz. So somebody's lived a rich, full life, get Thuraz, and now they stand at the doorway, and you stand there at the doorway with them. And I think one of the things that I do when I stand at the doorway of death is just provide support and let them make the decision. When it comes, it comes. And then they have to step through the doorway, the threshold. And then the 7 of Swords. I talk too much. And this rune, this is kind of a good rune. This rune is called Sulu. It kind of looks like the Sig rune. And the 7 of Swords with Sulu in opportunity. You know, when you're not, can't just look at death as there's sadness, there's grief, but there's also opportunity for growth, for change, maybe to be supportive to somebody else, to try to bring a little light to their darkness. So if it's a close family member, be supportive. Talk about the good things, the happy, good memories, and bring a little light and support to the grieving family members. And then the final rune for the Queen of Pentacles. See what we get. And the rune is called Nathas. I think that's what it's. So the Queen of Pentacles is always a card about you're worried about finances, you're worried about money, and it asks you not to worry about finances, not to worry about money at that period of time. Don't worry too heavily about this. You may not get an answer right away if you have big financial problems at this period of time, but an answer is going to appear, and that's the rune of Nathas. Then you have to think about this, whatever powers, whatever things have been supporting you up until this point are not going to quit supporting you. They're going to continue to support you. And there just might just be a period of waiting. And that period of waiting, I think, has to do with before you return back to normal, before you return back to your wealthy life, that you go through that period of grieving. And what I try to do at the hospital is that not protect the families from the process. I try to involve them in the process, and I expect there to be grieving, and I expect there to be sadness. But what I want to help them do with what I do is I want them to walk away. I don't want them to walk away and say, if only I should have, I could have. That's why I do the things I do and the way I do them, so that, you have grief, you have sorrow, and that is that period, that's the waiting period. And before you return back to the fullness of life. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for this week.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
It's my pleasure, at least for today. So be careful, be cool, be kind, and I'll see you on the next episode of John's Tarot. Have a great day. Okay, bye-bye.